Episode 2: Confessions of the Heart. The marketplace was alive with color and chaos when Daniel's sleek car rolled up, a stark contrast to the earthy stalls and bustling energy around him. Ijoma, who had been helping her mother at her stand, froze as she saw him step out. Her heart raced, her mind spinning. In his designer suit, he looked like a stranger in this place, yet his eyes held a familiar intensity, focused solely on her. He moved toward her slowly, as if afraid she might vanish, his gaze unwavering, unguarded in a way she hadn't seen before. "Ijoma," he began, his voice soft but trembling with emotion. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I meant every word when I said I love you." She crossed her arms, masking the swirl of emotions churning inside. "Love? You made a bet, Daniel. How can I believe a word you say?" Daniel's eyes clouded with regret, his voice breaking as he continued. "The bet was a mistake, a foolish, terrible mistake. But falling in love with you wasn't. It just happened. You're the only one who's ever seen past all this." He gestured at himself. "The wealth, the expectations. With you, I could finally be me." Ijoma's resolve wavered as she saw the vulnerability in his face. This wasn't the billionaire who had swept her into his world. This was a man, raw, remorseful, standing before her with nothing but his wounded heart in his hands. Her voice softened, yet remained cautious. "I don't know if I can forget what you did, Daniel. You betrayed my trust." He took a tentative step forward, his gaze searching hers. "I'm not asking you to forget. Just give me a chance to show you the man I want to be with you." In the midst of the market's noise and chatter, they stood locked in their own world, the distance between them closing. Ijoma looked at him, her heart a battleground of pain and hope. Against her better judgment, she whispered, "One step at a time. But no more lies, Daniel." Relief washed over him, his grip on her hand gentle but firm. "No more lies. I promise what followed was no fairy tale." Trust was fragile, and healing was a journey fraught with moments of doubt. But together, they faced the scars of the past, peeling back layers that had shielded their hearts. They spent long, late hours talking, Daniel confessing the insecurities that had driven him to the reckless bet. "I thought I was proving something, but in reality, I was only breaking the one thing I truly cared about," he admitted, his voice thick with guilt. Ijoma listened, her heart both weary and hopeful. She could see Daniel trying, inching toward vulnerability, and for the first time, they seemed like equals, two people, imperfect yet willing to grow. Slowly, they began to build something real, a bond that was no longer about status or appearances, but about trust, forgiveness, and understanding. Months passed, and Daniel's world began to change. Friends and associates who had once encouraged his reckless pursuits now looked on in shock as he, the man who once scoffed at love, held Ijoma with a gentleness that defied everything they thought they knew about him. He no longer cared what anyone thought. He had found a love worth more than his wealth or reputation. And as for Ijoma, she too had changed. No longer the outsider in his world, she carried herself with a quiet strength, embracing her role as his partner. Together, they had built something that was theirs alone, a love that had endured the storms and now was ready to stand against anything. Their journey had only just begun, and for the first time, they faced the future as one. Ijoma had changed in ways she hadn't expected. No longer the outsider in his world, she carried herself with quiet confidence, fully embracing her role as Daniel's equal and partner. Together, they had forged something remarkable, a love that had been tested by betrayal and doubt, but was now resilient, unbreakable, and entirely their own. As they rebuilt their relationship, Daniel and Ijoma found unexpected joy in the small, simple things that life had to offer. They spent less time attending the glamorous events of Lagos's elite and more time savoring moments that existed far outside the walls of wealth and status. Ijoma guided Daniel into the heart of her world, reintroducing him to the vibrant markets and lively festivals of her childhood. For Daniel, each new experience was an awakening. He realized just how much he had missed while confined to his world of luxury and power. With Ijoma by his side, he felt a richness beyond material things, learning to appreciate the warmth of human connection, culture, and authenticity. Together, they wandered through bustling marketplaces, bargaining with vendors and laughing over shared stories. Daniel, once out of his element in such settings, now found himself at ease, thriving in these raw, genuine moments of joy and freedom. But eventually, the outside world intruded. News of their reconciliation spread through high society, and soon they were thrust back under the scrutiny of Daniel's friends and family. This time, however, things were different. Daniel no longer cared about society's judgments, and Ijoma had shed the insecurities that once plagued her. She walked beside him with a newfound strength, no longer feeling like a stranger in his world. At a prestigious charity event, Daniel and Ijoma made their first public appearance as a reunited couple. The grand ballroom filled with whispers and curious glances, but Daniel held her hand, unbothered by the gossip swirling around them. Their love was unmistakable in the way they exchanged secret glances and subtle smiles, in the way Daniel protectively placed his hand on her back as they moved through the crowd. To those watching, they were no longer just a billionaire and a woman from humble beginnings. They were a force, united and unshakable. Yet there was one final trial awaiting them: Chief Adedayo, Daniel's father. The stern patriarch had always disapproved of Ijoma, seeing her as unworthy of the Adedayo name. Now that Daniel and Ijoma were together again, his disapproval loomed over them like a shadow. One afternoon, Daniel took Ijoma to the family estate, ready to confront his father and lay everything on the line. The moment they entered the grand sitting room, the tension was palpable. Chief Adedayo sat waiting, his gaze cold and penetrating. "Father," Daniel began, his tone respectful yet firm, "Ijoma and I are committed to each other. I ask that you respect that." For the first time, Daniel saw a glimmer of acknowledgement in his father's eyes, a flicker of respect that had never been there before. Chief Adedayo nodded slowly, though his face remained a stoic mask. "We'll see," he said in a measured tone. "But you've made your choice, Daniel. Just be sure it's the right one." As they left Chief Adedayo's estate, Daniel felt a fierce pride swelling within him. Ijoma had faced his father's cold skepticism with unwavering strength, claiming her place in Daniel's world with a dignity that commanded respect. For the first time, he realized that they weren't just fighting to stay together, they were forging something unbreakable. Walking hand in hand, they knew that their love, forged through trials and forged by fire, was ready to take on whatever came next. Driving home in silence, Daniel reached over, taking Ijoma's hand, the warmth of her touch grounding him. "Thank you," he murmured. She glanced at him, a gentle smile lighting her face. "For what?" "For standing by me, for loving me, even when I didn't deserve it." Ijoma squeezed his hand, her gaze steady. "We're a team now, Daniel. Whatever comes, we face it together." In that moment, the weight that had once shadowed their lives lifted, as if the final pieces of doubt had been cast aside. They had weathered the storm, and they were finally free to build the life they both deserved. A sense of normalcy returned to their lives, though the tension with Chief Adedayo lingered in the background. But Daniel and Ijoma had become a united front, unfazed by the judgments of others. They had found in each other a love that stood against all odds. And as they settled into this new phase, it was as if their hearts had found peace. One evening, as they shared a quiet moment at home, an unexpected knock sounded at the door. Standing in the doorway was Wael, the friend whose reckless dare had sparked the series of events that had nearly destroyed their marriage. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by a subdued expression. "I came to apologize," Wael said, his voice uncharacteristically serious. "I didn't understand how much damage that bet would cause." Daniel's gaze remained steady, unreadable. He hadn't forgotten Wael's role in the betrayal that had almost torn him and Ijoma apart. But time had a way of softening even the deepest wounds. "We were both wrong," Daniel replied calmly. "The bet was foolish, but it led me to something real. I fell in love with Ijoma, and that's all that matters now." Wael let out a breath of relief, his shoulders relaxing. "I'm happy for you both," he said genuinely. "I can see now that she's the best thing that ever happened to you." From the doorway, Ijoma watched, a faint smile playing on her lips. She sensed Wael's sincerity, and though the past couldn't be erased, she felt ready to release the bitterness it had once stirred. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice kind but resolute. "We've moved on, and maybe it's time for all of us to do the same." In that simple exchange, the final remnants of their painful past were laid to rest. Wael stayed for a while, catching up with his old friend, and by the time he left, a new chapter had begun. The bet was nothing but a distant memory, and Daniel and Ijoma were free to embrace their future. With their relationship now on solid ground, Daniel and Ijoma poured themselves into building something that would reflect their shared journey, a charity devoted to empowering women from disadvantaged backgrounds. Ijoma, who had once lived the very life they hoped to impact, was fueled by a passion to create opportunities for women to rise above their circumstances. The charity would offer vocational training, financial support, and mentorship across Nigeria. Daniel used his wealth and connections to propel their mission forward, matching Ijoma's passion with unwavering dedication. Together, they built an organization that grew to be a beacon of hope, not only because of the resources it provided, but because of the love and sincerity that Daniel and Ijoma poured into it. Thank you for watching and diving into this journey with us. Be sure to catch the next episode, and if this story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more captivating African tales. Don't forget to tap the notification bell to stay inspired and connected to the wisdom and heart of these stories. Until next time, stay blessed and keep shining.